Hey guys, hope everything is good in your world today. Welcome back to Your Lake Fork Guide. Welcome back to the Guides Network. We're going to discuss a little bit about bass fishing today with one of the oldest techniques that there is, with like the original artificial bass lure kind of deal. We're going to talk about fishing Texas rig plastic worms for bass. Alright guys, Texas rig, plastic worms, whatever you want to call them, they are without a doubt one of the most versatile things you can do as far as when you're going bass fishing, and probably this is probably caught more bass than anything else ever of all time. So I mean, this thing's been catching a lot of bass for a lot of years. It's still very, very effective to this day. To me, there's kind of two categories. You have kind of your worm category. This is a straight tail worm or smash stick, stick bait, but there's a lot of different kind of straight tail worms, and then curly tail worms. So you got your worm category, and then you got your creature baits, like the brush hogs and the structure bugs and the crawl tubes and all that kind of stuff. So you got just your straight worms, that category, and then you got your creature baits, which are a little more compact, have a lot more appendages and a lot more moving parts. We'll go ahead and let's cover some of the creature baits that I use right off the bat, because these seem to be more common today. It used to be where worms were the most popular. It seems like more and more people are throwing creature baits over worms most of the time these days. So probably the number one day in, day out best creature bait in the world that's just going to get a lot of bites and catch big fish is going to be a baby brush hog made by Zoom. It's just got a couple little deals here, little flappers, little curly tails in between. But that Zoom baby brush hog is absolutely, anybody can make the argument that was, the best creature bait available on the market. This is one that's kind of recent, last couple years here. I really like it. Strike King Structure Bug. It's got little flappers here, and two down here. Really, it's got those rage appendages on there. It gives off a ton of action. And then a beaver style bait. This is the Lake Fork Tackle Flipper. It has the rudders, which make its appendages spread out and kick a little more. But that's a beaver style bait. That's, like I said, Lake Fork Tackle Flipper. You can buy that up there at Lake Fork Trophy Lures. And this is the Lake Fork Tackle Crawl Tube. Another straight-tailed crawfish type profile. So these two are going to have a little bit less action. They don't swim as much as the structure bug and the brush hog. But these are kind of my creature baits. That's the 4 different creature baits that I go to when I'm Texas rigging. On the regular worms, there's one worm that I use. This is the Lake Fork Trophy Lures worm. I'm obviously loyal to the brand here, but this has a bunch of rings. It's got these rings on here, gives off a lot more water displacement, and plus they have a couple colors that I'm really fond of. Of course, watermelon red everybody throws, but this color right here, which is blue fleck red. What it is the blue fleck worm, that dark purple, almost black color with that blue flake in it, and this also has red flake. One thing about that's for my darker conditions and everything, but when I have dark skies or dirty water, that's the worm I want to throw, is that blue fleck red. But there was actually a scientific study done at the University of Oklahoma years ago, and what they found was that the colors red and blue, red being number 1 and blue being number 2, and everything else being quite a bit behind it, they were the best 2 by a lot. But the colors of red and blue penetrated into the water deeper than any other colors, which means the deeper your bait goes, that red and blue still showed up. So the darker the water is, the deeper the bait is. That red and blue is the last color that's still showing up the deeper it goes. So for that reason, this blue fleck red, having both of those two colors, for my dark conditions, dark days, I really, really have a lot of faith in that worm right there. I've caught so many fish on it in those conditions. And then here's one that's kind of a unique color. It's a red shad, but it has green flake. Lake Fork Tackle adds green flake to the red shad. Really like that. Gives it a little bit of a flash, a little bit of a sparkle in the water. And that red shad, that is all water conditions, all water colors, all times of the year, a great color. You know, especially as we get into fall, there's definitely a Texas rig stick bait bite. And some of the fish that you guys will see later in this video were caught on Texas rig stick baits. You got your regular stick baits. This is the Smash Tech Smash Stick. It could be a Yamamoto Senko, whatever stick bait, Yum Dinger, whatever you prefer. But Texas rigging these gets bites a lot of times in the fall. But one thing that I like to do is I like to take this old hyper stick right here, the old Lake Fork Tackle hyper stick. You put that on a Texas rig, and with those slots that it has in it compared to the other ones, it just gives it a lot more wiggle on that tail. It gives it that straight tail profile that they want. At the same time, it gives it a lot more action. And I myself, it could just be a confidence thing, but for me, I get a lot more bites and bigger bites on that hyper stick in the fall when I'm Texas rigging a straight tail worm. Now, when I'm throwing it weightless, I actually prefer the ones without the slots. When I'm throwing, the traditional Senko style weightless Texas rig, I prefer the non-slotted baits. But for Texas rigging or Carolina rigging, I like the hyper stick better than the regular stick baits. That's a lot of different worms, I know, and I apologize for being as jumbled as I am, but it's such a versatile deal. You can throw so much different stuff on it. I mean, you could use a Texas rig to do just about anything. You can swim it, let it go to the bottom, dead stick it, pop it across the top. I mean, there's so many things you can do with it. This is just kind of my base setup for worm fishing right here. This 1/4 ounce tungsten weight, a 4-aught EWG hook. I believe this one is an owner EWG, but just an EWG hook in the 4-aught size. And then, as you see, an 8-inch worm. Now, there are times when I'll throw 10-inch. Most of the time, when I'm throwing just this little light deal up shallow, I'm going to go with the 8-inch worm. I use that 10-inch worm more when I'm out deep offshore. But yeah, that's kind of my standard setup. And then my rod is going to be the 7.2 medium heavy. I've got 17-pound fluorocarbon, and I've got a high-speed 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. And that's my preferred setup for just my standard, everyday Texas rig, good old worm fishing setup right there. Guys, on areas, I'm telling you, there's no wrong area. Typically, with this Texas rig setup with the 1/4 ounce and the 8-inch worms and all that, I'm going to be fishing that in 10 foot of water or less most of the time. We do fish it in 12, 14, 15 foot of water at times, but most of the time I'm fishing it in about 10 foot of water or less. I like to get it right up next to some of the standing timber, like what you see behind me. I like to get that worm right up next to it and just fish it ever so slow next to that timber. But really what I'm looking for is the creek channel swings in these grass flats. The same thing that we always talk about, guys. The funneling points, the stop signs, the elevation changes in amongst these grass flats are where I'm focusing on when I'm fishing this grass. That is the key to grass fishing, is finding those subtle differences. When you get in some of these massive grass flats, it's all the same to the fish, and there'll be these subtle little differences, and that's really what they key in on and group up on. If you sat there and tried to cover the whole grass flat, you'd spin your wheels, you'd go drive yourself crazy trying to figure it all out. But if you focus on those high percentage areas where the elevation changes are, that's going to tend to get you around the groups of fish, and that's going to tend to get you a lot more bites and get your confidence built up. But yeah, I mean, there's no wrong area, per se, to fish a Texas rigged worm. Honestly, you can fish it in grass, you can fish it in wood, you can fish it in brush piles, you can fish it on a flat, you can fish it on a point, you can fish it on a hump, you can fish it on a creek channel. There's no wrong place to fish that worm. And to that point, there's kind of no wrong way to retrieve it. I'm going to get up now. I'm going to try to show you my base retrieve. But keep in mind when I'm doing this, guys, there really ain't a wrong way to go about fishing this rig. It's the most versatile deal. Catch fish all different ways. So, with the Texas rig, just get it rigged up, put your worm on, and go out there and throw it. and experiment, and you'll catch fish. It's a flat bite getter. Versatility. This worm, I can take it and flip it to that stump right there, and I can fish that stump. If I'm going to flip a tree, vertical timber like that, I want to make sure that I strip line and let that worm fall straight down beside the base of that tree. Once it's down there, I'm going to pick up my slack, give it a couple hops. If it's hung up in grass or roots, I'm going to work it out of it, hop it a couple more times. Hey, and then I'm done. Now, there's just a short little pitch to a stump right there. Now, what you can also do is take, and you can cover a ton of water with the Texas rig. I threw that thing out there, I mean, a long ways. Cast it way on out there, and then I'll just start slowly dragging it. Every once in a while, hop it a little bit. But mostly I want to make sure that worm gets all the way to the bottom. When you first throw it out there, give it time, let it settle on the bottom, let everything settle down around it. And then once it's settled in, you think those fish are comfortable in that area, that's when you want to start slowly dragging that worm. Every once in a while, give it a little hop. That way it's going to go boom, 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 but that tail's going to flutter behind it. Just slowly drag it. Now, the best part about fishing the Texas rig worm, 100% without a doubt, has got to be the hook sets. When they bite it, you want to do what we call checking them up. So when you feel a bite, you feel a thump, what you want to do is point your rod down, and you want to slowly take in your slack until you start to feel their weight, and then you want to see them swimming. Once you can feel their weight and see them swimming a little bit, hey, you want to take a step back and bring the pain, son. I'm talking about lay the steel to them. It's the most fun hook set in the game, that's for sure. But really, there's no wrong way. I mean, you can swim that thing. You can swim it through grass, over grass. That's an old school thing. Kind of a lot of guys used to put a real light weight on that Texas rig worm back in the day when that was one of the only artificial baits we had. And they would swim it over that grass. You know, that still works, guys. It hadn't, bass hadn't gotten any smarter over time, okay? They're still the same critters. They'll still eat the same thing they did in the 70s. And back in the day, this was one of the only things we had to throw at them. So keep an open mind with the Texas rig. Always keep your mind working around, hey, how can I fish efficiently with this Texas rig in the cover that I'm given in this area? Whatever works for that area, the Texas rig can do it. It's so versatile. So that's the biggest strength of it. So stay versatile with it. Try these tips out. Get your setup right. Get you some of them Lake Fork tackle worms, and then send me some pictures of some big old bass that I know you're going to catch. Man, there he is. Fish. Thank you, sir. Another solid little healthy young Lake Fork bass there. Oh, good old wormfish. Alright, thanks guys. Appreciate you watching the channel as always. Hey, if you like that video, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. If you want to see more like it, subscribe. That'll help us get out to more people. The more likes, the more subscribes, the higher the video ranks, the more views it get, and the more people that get to take part in this community that we're building, helping each other catch more fish and loving our fellow man, because that's just what we do around here. Other than that, hey, appreciate it. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you want to see, and we will see you guys next time right here. Your Lake Fork Guide.